All right, everyone, welcome to the football video. This is going to be probably the longest sports video I've uploaded. There's a lot of things I've been meaning to do for separate videos, and for whatever reason, I had the idea, we'll just combine them all into the same video. So, this is what I would like to call the football video, or alternately, Football Yap with me. And there's a lot of things I'm going to cover. If you read the full title, which I haven't written out yet, but I'm sure it's going to be a long title, you'll know what's in this video. But to lay out, to set forth the contents, we're going to do a QB tier list. And I'm sure everyone's going to agree with me and not be mad at where I rank their favorite quarterback. Then I'm going to break down the Colts roster, which can't wait for that. Slight spoiler, I don't have huge expectations for my Colts this year, but we're going to look at the roster regardless. That's something I've wanted to do for a while. And we'll talk about Anthony, and we'll talk about Indiana Jones, and why I'm already looking forward to the draft, which we'll get to that too. But we're gonna look at my season predictions. I went game by game. I'm not gonna show like every single game's win-loss, but I will show you my predictions as well as playoff predictions, Super Bowl champ, and some awards predictions as well. Awards. What's the word I'm looking for here? Not just thoughts. Something more meaningful, but I can't think anymore. So I've been working on this for about 3 days. I'm starting to record this at 11:30 the night before the start of the NFL season. I really wanted to get it done before the first game starts tomorrow night, just to have it up prior to everything happening. So I'm already a little late because college football already kicked off. But after the predictions, we're going to take the would-be mock draft order, and we're going to do my mock draft 1.0 for this year. And also, spoiler, I'm behind from where I usually am. I know it's extremely early in the season regardless, but I don't have a ton of prospects on the board yet. And there's going to be a lot that I probably don't know even, or I left off. Who was it? Is it Lassiter? Lawson? There's a DB from USC that I literally just added to my board today. Can't even remember his name right now. But we'll get to that. And then finally, we're going to end it just by looking at my positional rankings for each spot of what I do have so far. So after the mock draft, we'll go through quarterbacks, running backs, DBs, D-line, O-line, so on and so forth. And I need to say this early as well, and you can read it, but timestamps are in the description. I usually do timestamps. I don't know if people who check these out usually see that there's timestamps, but just to throw it out there early, if you want to skip around and just, like if you're a Colts fan clicking on this, I want to see this guy's Colts breakdown and see what he thinks of Daniel Jones. You can go to the timestamp. I'm making myself laugh already. This is bad. I'm sure Daniel will be great, right? I'm sure. So we're going to start off with the QB tier list where we find Daniel Jones. He's not dead last. But he's in tier 7. You could say it's tier C as well, and I'll explain more of the tiers as I go, but maybe there's a chance, as in maybe this guy could develop and be a franchise starting quarterback, or at least maybe there's a chance this guy could possibly continue to be a starter in the league, is what I'm going for with that naming. But at 32, I'm a little surprised the Saints aren't just starting Tyler Shuck, who I believe is older. Maybe they're the same age. But they're going to start Spencer Rattler week 1, and I don't expect him to start more than really a couple of games. I do think Shuck will get in there. They also brought back Jake Hayner today, so maybe we see Jake Hayner take some Saints snaps once again. They're a team that you hope Tyler Shuck, I guess, can do some things for him. I don't know if I expect that to happen or not, but they're going to start off with Rattler anyway. So we've seen him a bit over 2 years in the NFL, and he had some flashes in college, I guess you could say. I'm not extremely hopeful he's going to turn out to be a franchise QB, but he's going to have the opportunity. That's sometimes all you need. 31 is going to be Joe Flacco. Another team that's probably going to cycle through a few different quarterbacks this year. As we know, they drafted 2 of them. And if they're, spoiler, if they're as bad as I predict they will be, they may have to draft another one next year. We'll see about that. But clearly Joe is not the long-term solution. But he is going to start week 1. And I appreciate his career. I can appreciate what he did with the Browns in his last stint 2 years ago. But as I said, I am a Colts fan, and I was not a huge appreciator of what he did last year while Anthony was hurt once or twice, and also while he was benched for 2 games after the tap-out situation. I don't want to say he doesn't have it anymore completely, but as far as upside, as far as athleticism, really Spencer Rattler is the only starting quarterback that I would not that I would take Joe over. What am I trying to say? He's 31. All right, that's where I'm at with Joe. Maybe he proves me wrong. Maybe he has a great connection with Jerry Jeudy, with David Njoku. The offensive line holds up, which I don't expect that to happen either. Shout out to Wand Jones. But yeah, I don't know about the Browns, and I don't know about Joe, but he's getting the opportunity. Like I said, sometimes that's all you can ask for. Cam Ward coming in at 30, the number 1 overall pick of this year. Similarly, I don't have huge expectations for the Titans, but I do think Cam will have a fine rookie season. He's got some young receivers, with the exception of Calvin Ridley, who could be a just. I think he and Garrett Wilson will probably have the 2 highest amounts of targets for any receiver in the league this year. There's just really not much else to throw to for Cam Ward. And therefore, I do see Calvin Ridley, at least targets. He's going to have a lot of targets. Maybe not catches, but he'll have the targets. And maybe not touchdowns, but he'll have plenty of targets. But I do expect Cam to develop nicely over the next couple of years. I don't know if I see his ceiling being like a top 10 guy, but there's a world where he sneaks into like the top 15 within a year or so. But things, I think, in general for the Titans are going to have to turn around. I don't foresee like a Jaden Daniels-esque rookie season where he just carries them to the playoffs. I don't think that team is ready. But he's going to be starting all season. He's going to get experience. It's going to be great for year 2 to set them up for the future. And now we come to Daniel Jones. And because I am going to do a full Colts roster breakdown, I'm not going to spend a ton of time explaining right now why Daniel Jones is 29 for me. And at the same time, it's probably pretty self-explanatory why he would be 29th for me. Another quarterback you could say that has shown flashes, right? There's the play where he ran the ball and he just falls over. That comes to mind, and it's like, haha, that's funny. Daniel Jones at times has played like an above-average starting caliber NFL quarterback. He's been to the playoffs. He helped Brian Dable win a Coach of the Year award. He also had Saquon Barkley, who was hurt quite a bit over his time with the Giants. But do you expect him to, after being cut midseason and just kind of having a ride with the Vikings there for a bit, do you expect him to come to the Colts and show up and say through his play, this is clearly a top 15 to 20 guy right here. Like, do we expect the Sam Darnold esque comeback or a Geno Smith esque season where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's a starting quarterback? Sure. I don't really know if I expect that. And I like the Colts' weapons. And again, I'll get into all that with the Colts, but Daniel's going to check in at 29. J.J. McCarthy at 28, which is kind of funny, his replacement, essentially, with the Vikings, if you want to look at it that way. They could have re-signed Daniel, but they didn't. And J.J.'s interesting. Missed his rookie season, coming from a team that didn't have to pass the ball a ton, but they still won the national championship, allegedly, arguably. No asterisks or anything on that one, but we'll see. And again, another slight spoiler: I'm a little lower on the Vikings relative to seemingly everyone else, so we'll get into that too. But JJ, I think right now, especially in this tier, I think is fairly accurate to where I think he'll be for most people. I don't really expect anyone's going to have him like, oh yeah, he's already 25th or higher. It's like he hasn't played and we haven't seen him. So even putting him above Daniel Jones and Cam Ward, even really, I think he's got talent and he's got, Justin Jefferson, which will make him look nice. We'll see. We'll see about JJ. Michael Penix Jr. with the Falcons, not Kirk Cousins. They still have him. I don't think anybody's trading for him. But Penix started the last couple games last year. Obviously, had a great season with Washington the year before that in college. And that elevated him into the top 10, which was a surprise. I think everyone remembers when he was drafted, everybody freaked out. Everybody said, oh, this is such a weird pick. Why would you draft a quarterback when you just paid Kirk Cousins? And I still kind of feel that way, that it was a weird process of them to draft Penix immediately after signing Kirk. But we've also seen Kirk. But then you could also say, well, why did they sign Kirk? I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a great explanation for that. I do like Michael Penix, though. But again, it's a very small sample size. I actually had JJ above Penix in my draft boards for 2 years ago's draft. But at the moment, right now, Penix, with a little more experience, gets a little bit of a nod for 27th. We're not talking about top 20 or higher here, but for 27th, he's got some weapons, and the Falcons will continue to draft weapons for him, I'm sure, in the first round, because that's what they like to do. Of course, they don't have a first-round pick next year. They traded that for another set of pass rushers, but we'll get to that as well with the draft later. But yeah, I don't know. To me, this is also kind of a tier where it's like, I mean, it really is. Maybe there's a chance. There's a chance Penix, McCarthy, Cam Ward just aren't really great quarterbacks in the NFL, and they're replaced within a couple years. But at the same time, I could see all three of them making their case for like, yeah, this is like a top 20 guy. It's not like a top 5 contender, but it's a guy that's going to be your franchise quarterback, and you're not looking to actively upgrade. So the development for this year for Penix, McCarthy, Cam Ward, I think they're all going to go up. I don't really see any of them being terrible. So, and I'd like to see that. I like to see good quarterback play when I watch random games on Sunday mornings and afternoons and evenings. So it's always nice to see good QB play and not like, oh, Felipe Franks has to go out there and play emergency quarterback because Penix is out and Kirk Cousins is old. And they You got to use converted tight end Felipe Franks to throw the ball, and he goes like 1 of 8. Nobody wants to see that. That's like a Thursday night game right there. And speaking of 1 for 8, here's number 26, Justin Fields. That's pretty mean, isn't it? I really like Justin. I'm an Ohio State fan. I thought him to Chicago was a good fit initially, and he had moments. You remember, was it 2 years ago now or 3? That game in the rain to start the season, they won, and he goes sliding. Like that was a cool moment, and that's kind of it. That's kind of it so far for Justin Fields. He's been very inconsistent. His year with Pittsburgh wasn't great. I know there were some Steelers fans that wanted him to keep playing over Russell Wilson, and some Steelers fans that probably would have preferred to just keep him as opposed to sign who they signed. He was coming up. But, and unfortunate with the Jets, too, today, Elijah Vera Tucker could miss the season. That's a new injury that just came out. Since I've been making this video, I saw it earlier, so that's a bummer for him and for Justin and the Jets offense right before the season's set to start, to lose a very good quality offensive lineman. I think they do have. They had a center battle between Josh Myers, who they signed, and Joe Tittman, who I was high on a couple years ago in the draft. I assume Tittman will probably just play guard then if Vera Tucker does miss time. But yeah, Justin, there's a world where this is kind of the last chance, and he's done being a starter after this year. He's got Garrett Wilson. Like I said, the same thing about Calvin Ridley. He's going to get a ton of targets. Draft them both in your fantasy leagues. That's my biggest piece of fantasy advice. But yeah, I don't foresee Fields moving up. I think he's the one person on this list that actually is probably going to move down, except for maybe Daniel Jones. We're going to move on to and we're just simply calling this the up-and-comers. It's Bo Nix at 25, Drake May at 24, Caleb Williams at 23, and Bryce Young at 22. And you could say Bo's the only QB on this list to make the playoffs. You'd be right. And that's not necessarily because Bo is better than the guys ahead of him. I think if you put the other three in that same situation with that team, with that great of a defense, you'd probably be looking at similar results. But that's not to knock Bo. I mean, Bo, he was much lower on my draft board 2 years ago. I had my final mock draft, I did the day of the draft. I had him going to Denver, but at like 70 something. I did not expect him to be, what was he, pick 12, I want to say? I really didn't expect that. And he's already proved me wrong in that he was much better than a third-round quarterback as a rookie. So, will he pass up some of these guys this year? Maybe. That's possible. But I do also expect to see better play out of Drake and Caleb and Bryce. So that's kind of my process on why I've got these guys ranked all together, for one, and then how they are ranked. And again, part of it, too, I guess, is experience. I mean, Bryce has been in the league a year longer. Caleb started right away. Drake May did not start right away, but again, the flashes were he's shown flashes, which I know is what's the word? It's kind of ambiguous. Like, oh, well, what flashes did he show? And it's like, well, I can't really pull up a specific play and be like, here's Drake May hitting a slant to Mario Douglas. But trust me, he did. If you want to go watch Patriots offensive tape from last year, that might be rough for you. But I do believe in these guys, and I think all of them have cases to be top 20 quarterbacks really early in this season, because there's some veterans in the next tier that could be moving down, especially by the end of the season. So, moving on quickly to tier 5. Still pretty good, I think. Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold, and Aaron Rodgers, still ranking 16th. It's baffling to me that I'm still so high on Aaron Rodgers. I really should start with Trevor, but Aaron Rodgers, dude, the MVPs that he won with Green Bay in recent years before he went to the Jets, he gets hurt, he comes back, he didn't have a great season, and I get that. And I understand if you're watching this and you're like, Aaron Rodgers at 16, he's 22 for me. And it's like, I get that. Maybe I am a little delusional. And it's not like I'm, a Steelers or a Packers or an Aaron Rodgers fan specifically. I just kind of think he's still that good, where he's like at least an average league starting quarterback quality player. And if you look at the guys behind him, I was super high on Trevor Lawrence the year he came out, and I think everyone else was. I had higher expectations for him. I had him as like, in Madden terms, like an 80 overall immediately as a rookie. And now we're, 5 years in, and he's probably more along the lines of like a mid 70s somewhere. So, was I wrong about Trevor? Yeah. Still, 21st isn't bad, though, right? If you're the 21st best quarterback in the NFL, you're not a bad player, right? But would I like to see him higher? Personally, no, because I'm a Colts fan. But for him, yeah. And kind of the same with Kyler. Kyler is interesting because every year it seems like they win a couple games at the beginning. And it's like, oh, the Cardinals are turning the corner. And then Call of Duty comes out and everybody makes the Call of Duty jokes. And Kyler, his play does get worse throughout the season. And I don't think that's because of video games, but maybe it's part of it. I don't really think that's the case, but maybe. But, talent-wise, the talent's there. The size isn't really there. He's not a Josh Allen physically imposing runner, or even Lamar. He's not going to run through you, but very athletic, very capable runner, scrambler. They've been drafting bigger offensive line, which is interesting. Like Paris Johnson was a 6'6" tackle, and I was surprised they took him. It's like, wasn't there a thing about you want shorter offensive linemen when you have Kyler Murray because you want him to be able to see over the line? It's like, I don't know how much that really affects him on a play-to-play basis, but that was something I've considered. And, that doesn't affect where I have him ranked, but his success on the field, is that diminished by having 6'6", 6'7" tackles in 6'5", 6'6" guards? Like, they drafted Hayden Connor this year out of Texas, who's, I think, 6'5". Kelvin Beachum is still on this roster, by the way, which is amazing. He's like almost Aaron Rodgers' age. I think he's 38, maybe 39. But Kyler's fun. I like watching Kyler. I hope he does take some steps up. Geno with the Raiders. Didn't expect this trade. Didn't expect the Seahawks to prefer to sign Sam Darnold and trade Geno. Geno at 19. That kind of just seems like Geno. If you just picture, you close your eyes. Close your eyes. What am I saying, dude? You picture Geno Smith. And you think of a number, it's probably somewhere around 19. And it's funny because he's right behind Russell Wilson as well, who's now on his fourth team. But, yeah, Geno, the absolute most you could get out of Geno Smith is probably around where Aaron Rodgers is like the very middle league average starting caliber QB. There'll be some games where he plays really well. There won't be many games where he plays awful. So he kind of just balances out here somewhere in the middle. And I think Russell is kind of in that same grouping now as well. But I think Russell is the first QB on this list that I kind of expect to go down this year. Because I think he's still pretty good, but he has now a rookie behind him in Jackson Dart. There's also Jameis. I don't think you would bench Russell for Jameis. In fact, I looked at their depth chart on Our Lads, and they had Jackson Dart over Jameis now. Now, I don't know if that's official from the Giants. I didn't look that up. But I did notice that. Thought that was interesting. Sam Darnold with the Seahawks. They also drafted Jalen Milroe. So now nobody's going to be clamoring for Milroe to take snaps this season, I don't think. But if Sam doesn't have a great season, I think they signed him for 3 years, maybe 4. So maybe that contract doesn't get fulfilled to the end. But I like Sam, and he put himself in a great position with this the past season he had with the Vikings to be not only in this tier, but to also get a bag. And he got a pretty big bag, so good for him. And Rodgers, we mentioned. The Steelers, I don't know what was going on. If it really was just Aaron didn't want to participate in off-season stuff, is why he waited to sign for so long. But everyone knew it was going to happen, and it finally happened. And it's like, okay, cool. This will be a great season with Aaron Rodgers, and then they'll be looking for their next quarterback next year. So, yippee, I guess, with Aaron Rodgers. I don't expect him to go up at all anymore in my tier ranking. I expect him to maybe fall off dramatically. Is that too harsh to say? I don't. Like I said, I don't. I think it's more realistic that he would fall out of this tier completely than move up to like 14th, 13th for me. So sorry to Aaron. I didn't mean that sounds so harsh, but oh well. Moving on to tier 4. Good enough to carry playoff expectations. These are guys to me that you could interchange with some of the guys in the top 10, especially if you're a fan of one of these teams. You probably think these guys are top 10. And I'm not going to begrudge that. I wouldn't necessarily argue too hard if you were like, oh, Tua at his best is a top 10 quarterback. Like, I totally get that. Or Brock, or any of these 5. I think they're all in the same boat. Where it's like, yeah, when they play their best, when they're on, they're a top 10 talent in the league. But the league's pretty talented. I know everyone's like, oh, there's only like 7 quarterbacks that you wouldn't want to upgrade from. I think, minus injuries, which you can say that about any player in the league, I wouldn't be looking to actively replace any of these guys. And I've been pretty hard on Dak before, and I've been pretty hard on Baker at times in the past, but really since he left Cleveland, well, I say left, once he was exiled out of Cleveland when Cleveland decided to be stupid, he's been on an upwards kick to the point where he's now up to 11 for me. So, Jordan Love, I have the Packers doing very well this year. I know it's not a huge surprise, Micah Parsons trade and all, but he could potentially jump into the top 10. I don't really see Dak, Tua, or Brock making a move into the top 10 for me, but they're not guys that I expect to go down either. So this is the tier of like very good. Like when you talk about is a guy a Hall of Famer or is he in the Hall of very good? These are the very good quarterbacks, and this would be like the A tier, essentially. But now into tier 3 would be the A plus tier. Top 10 caliber with Super Bowl aspirations. These guys lead their teams. You expect them to make the playoffs. You expect them to at least be competitive and play their best in playoff games. And that is why they are 6 through 10. Jaden Daniels, the newest one to this list, I was pretty low on him as a rookie. I think I don't know if I would say most were low on him, but I don't think anyone. Obviously, no one expected the year that they had. Um, he was great, and it was reminiscent of the RG3 rookie season, and he was awesome. And he put himself in this discussion for top 10. If you don't quite have him in the top 10 because you have one of those guys 11 through 15 in there, I understand that. If you're like, I want to see him do it again, I want to see him do it again too. I hope he does. I like the Commanders. I like Dan Quinn. It is a bummer. Another guard, Sam Cosmi. I don't know if he's been ruled out for the season. I'm sure he's on IR, but the injury in last year's playoffs kept him out of their final game, I think. So that's a bummer to their O line. Traded Brian Robinson, which I feel like they've been thinking about doing ever since he recovered from his being shot as a rookie when that happened. I feel like the trade rumors started almost immediately. I don't know why, but he's now Christian McCaffrey's backup, so they don't have him. They did re-sign Terry to a massive deal, 3 years for almost $100 million. So they've kind of been up and down with their offseason, but I really like Jaden. He's a good leader for the team, and I'm excited for him to potentially continue to climb on this list. At 9, CJ Stroud. And I'm a big Stroud fan from Ohio State, obviously. I'm not a huge Texans fan, so I don't want to see him do great against the Colts twice a year. But I kind of expect it. I think CJ didn't have as good of a second year as his rookie season, but was still very good. And I think people, I say people, I think some people have kind of overlooked that. Rankings that I've seen talking about Stroud and whatnot, I don't think I've seen Stroud like this high in some lists. I think he deserves to be here. And I think Justin Herbert, in a similar way, they played each other in the playoffs last year, with the Texans coming out on top in that game. Herbert has not had a good playoff history. He's made it twice, I think twice. And they had the giveaway game that the Jaguars came back and won. And then they lost to the Texans this past year where he did not look good. And now you've lost Rashawn Slater again. You have Joe Alt, which is a nice luxury. It's why you drafted him inside the top 10. Partially. Yeah. But I still like Justin. I think he's very talented. I think he fits in this top 10 easily. I would like to see him continue to elevate his game. And with the receiving around him, I think there's a chance. Older Keenan Allen is back. They had Mike Williams back as well, but he retired. You got McConkey. You got maybe Quentin Johnston if he can catch the ball consistently. It's a pretty good offense, and he's a pretty good quarterback, and I expect him to stay in this tier. The next two are two that don't always get seen in people's top 10s either, being Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. Ironic that these two are still together after being traded for each other. The Rams, it paid off. The Rams got their Super Bowl win. They still have Stafford. They're still competitive. Aaron Donald retires. Their defense really didn't get much worse, which is crazy to say how good the Rams defense still is. The secondary, not quite as much, but the front four, certainly, still very, very good. With the Lions, last year was kind of supposed to be the year, and it kind of was for a while, and then the injuries piled up enough, and Jared Goff didn't play his best at the end. So if people are going to fall from this tier at all, like even just a spot or two, it's probably Matt and Jared. But I do expect them both to be in the playoffs again and competitive and competing to make the Super Bowl. So it's interesting. I don't know if they'll really fall. Stafford's had some offseason questions about is he going to retire and his back. I think it's his back. But he's supposed to be playing week 1, and we'll see if it holds up. I hope it does. It'd be awesome to see another Rams-Lions matchup. in the playoffs down the road. So, moving on to tier 2, tier elite with Super Bowl expectations. Now, the Bengals defense has gotten a bad rap for a while, and whether that's rightfully so or not, Joe Burrow has elevated his team to a Super Bowl in his career in year 2, which was really not expected after year 1 was not very good and he got hurt a bunch. So this is another tier where it's like it's only 2 guys and it's like they could be interchangeable with some of the other players around them. Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. He's great, great passer, mobile, not a super athlete, but mobile for sure. Good pocket presence. He has one of the best 2 receivers in the league around him, which is nice. Not a great offensive line, not a great defense. I don't want to say underrated. A defense that maybe isn't as bad as what has been said about them over the last several years. I think they've gotten worse, which is why Blue is now the Colts DC, not still in Cincinnati. But you still have Super Bowl expectations for him, and last year wasn't great. I do expect more of a bounce back, better season for Joe. And if he's in tier 1 next season, for me, I wouldn't be surprised. And I kind of just skipped over Jalen Hurts, unintentionally, not trying to forget about him. He just won a Super Bowl, which is great. And you have great talent around you, which is always a plus. It always helps. Saquon, one of the top 5 players from this past season. Jalen Carter, I'll mention him later because I picked him to win something. That should be easy to guess at what that is now if you think about it. But the Eagles are great. Jalen is a great quarterback in some eras, maybe the best. Same with Joe, maybe the best quarterback in the league. However, there's the S plus tier. There's the tier 1, the big 3. And with the big 3, it's Super Bowl or bust. And again, interchangeable. If you want to tell me Lamar's your QB1, I get it. If you want to tell me Patrick Mahomes is still your QB1, completely understand. For me, I've got Josh, then Lamar, then Patrick, at least for the moment, for right now, to start this season, and for also what I expect and what my predictions will say, do lead me to come to the conclusion that I should have Josh Allen at 1. Again, call me crazy. If you want to say Josh is the most talented, Patrick's most talented, Lamar with his athleticism and throwing ability, awesome. I completely get it. Just for me, this is what I'm feeling right now, and kind of also influenced, like I said, by my predictions, which we're going to get to very soon. But that is my tier 1. And again, you could argue that Joe should be here. If you're an Eagles fan and you want to say, well, how is Jalen Hurts not here? We just won the Super Bowl. I get that too. I wouldn't argue, I wouldn't push back too much on that. I think Jalen is a great quarterback in general. And I think Joe's a great player. I just think these 3 consistently every year have kind of separated themselves as the big 3. But moving on, here is my my spreadsheet version with arbitrary Madden ratings attached to each player. And you can see I actually have Josh and Lamar tied, although I give the slight nod to Josh. Is there anything else interesting to point out here? Bryce through Bo Nix, the same overall. Those could all certainly go up. I mentioned Penix, McCarthy, Cam Ward could all rise. And let me tell you, Jordan Love, if I had to pick one right now that's not in the top 10 to be in the top 10, it's going to be Jordan Love. And I'm not the huge Jordan Love truther, but for what I think the Packers are going to accomplish, I think he could move up into that A plus tier. So that is the recap. And now the sad part begins. I'm going to break down the Colts roster, and I did want to start with Anthony. I just feel bad, right? Like, it makes me feel bad. I have the understanding. I'm not as delusional as you might think, right? I have the understanding that he completed under 50% of his passes last year. But I also watched every game, and 20 times a game, he drops back and he launches a deep ball. So I don't really care about the completion percentage so much. What I do care about is the turnovers and the inconsistency to hit a pass inside of 10 yards. It's frustrating to watch our offense run the ball once with Jonathan Taylor for like 5 yards, and then Anthony run to the sideline and get a yard, and then Anthony throw a short pass and it's incomplete, and we punt. That is probably the most frustrating thing, having watched Anthony play the last 2 years. I just want him to succeed, dude. I feel so bad. And part of it is the Chris Ballard experience has been a long time. And I like him for the most part. And I even agree with a lot of the things he says. I listened to his press conference about a week ago where he talked primarily about Anthony because every single question was going to be about Anthony. And I really didn't have anything to disagree with him about. But he does get grating sometimes where somebody will ask a question and he's just so holier than thou sounding. Does that make any sense? If you've heard Chris Ballard speak, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's not that I dislike him as a person. I just don't like when he does that. And he's been here for so long, and we have one playoff appearance and no wins. For a team that used to routinely make the playoffs and win games, it just isn't working. And Anthony is their guy, and they're telling us, the fans, our guy isn't good enough to start over Daniel Jones. I'm gonna crash out. No, I'm not gonna crash out. It's sad. I don't really know how else to say it, but it's sad. So let's stop. Let's stop looking at Anthony's sad. Look at Daniel Jones' face instead. I guess he's looking into my soul with those eyes. I've also attached arbitrary Madden ratings to these Colts as we're going to break them down. I'm just not confident. Like, I would rather see Anthony go out there and play worse than the baseline of what I expect to see from Daniel Jones. Because the baseline of what I expect to see out of Daniel Jones isn't that high. If we had signed Darnold, or if we had traded for Geno, or if we had signed even Aaron Rodgers, I would have been like, okay, these guys, I kind of get it. Like, they're noticeably better. You expect them to be better than what Anthony's played for 2 years. I get that. But it's Daniel Jones. And again, this is something I said during my QB breakdown. He's played well at times. At times, you were like, oh, okay, I guess this is why they drafted him to replace Eli Manning, who won 2 Super Bowls. I guess I get that. And I expect to see some of those moments with the Colts sometimes. Like, sometimes he'll hit Tyler Warren, or sometimes he'll hit a deep ball to Alec Pierce maybe once. Maybe once. I'm just not thrilled. I'm not thrilled about it. And, the Colts' brain trust of Jim Irsay, R.I.P., Chris Ballard, and Shane Steichen selected Anthony at 4. They said they would have taken him over Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, which might just be, speak. Who knows if they really meant that, but you played him for 2 years and he was good enough to start over Minshew and Flacco because it's Minshew and Flacco, right? But now 2 years in, he's not good enough to start over Daniel Jones. So that's concerning for multiple reasons. As you can be aware that I am just I'm not feeling it. I want to be a Daniel Jones fan. If Daniel Jones actually plays really well this year, and then that creates a whole other conversation. Does that mean we would trade Anthony away in the offseason or by the deadline if Daniel's actually playing well? Does that mean we're going to give him another $40 million per year contract like he got from the Giants? I have no idea. I just know that even though I have him slightly higher rated, I don't expect really anything better from Daniel than I would of Anthony, because with Anthony, at least you have the potential that he's so young and physically gifted, and not just running, but his arm, where his best play really was the deep ball and the connection he had with Alec Pierce last year. So it's a bummer. I wanted to see Anthony win the starting job. I know there was the first play of, or not the first play, but the first game of preseason where he got blindside sacked. I guess wasn't a good look because I guess that protection should have been on him. But I don't know, man. That's really all I have to say about Daniel and Anthony, I guess. Riley Leonard's here too. He's fine for a QB3 right now. I don't really expect him to be the future. There are some people here that do. And it's the same people that wanted Sam Ellinger to be the starter, I think. So I'm not really on that train either. The running back room is interesting because Jonathan Taylor, I think, is a top 10 back. I think he'll have a top 10 season. They had signed Khalil Herbert. He is now on the practice squad. DJ Giddens as a rookie, I'm kind of excited to see in moderation, of course. I want to see Taylor get the bulk, and I don't want to see him get hurt. He's been hurt here and there over the last few years. And then Tyler Goodson, who I've actually gotten a little higher on in the past year. He's the one that couldn't catch that Gardner Minshew pass, and it's like, it was a pretty bad pass. So it really wasn't on him. But again, another Shane Sykin thing. It's like, why was Tyler Goodson in the game and not Jonathan Taylor at the end of our season 2 years ago where we needed to win? It was a Gardner Minshew bootleg pass to Tyler Goodson. So he's still here, and Shane's still here, and that's that, I guess, for now at least. Tyler Warren, first round tight end. I was very excited to see that pick come in. I'd basically been mocking him to the Colts for months. It was kind of the easiest pick to get right, I would say, for most people. And despite Colston Loveland actually going ahead of Tyler Warren, he is younger. He is more of a, I guess you could say, he's a better pass catching prospect. Although I kind of liked Warren more than Loveland. Maybe that's my Ohio State bias. I think he's going to be great. Mullet, if you're watching, asked me a few days ago, or like a week ago, how good I thought he would be as a rookie relative to, like, would he be a top 10 caliber tight end or so. And I'd like to say yes, I really would. And I think talent-wise, I think he could certainly become that. But the quarterback position, man, like, are we going to actually feature him enough to be a good tight end this year? I really don't know. But behind him, we still have Mo. Kept Ogletree, kept Mallory, did not keep Jelani Woods. He was claimed by the Jets. And unfortunate to see him go. 2 years of being on IR back-to-back didn't help. He almost caught the game-winning touchdown in one of our preseason games, but it was ruled incomplete. Talented guy, just the numbers game. We weren't going to keep 5, and Ogletree's more of a blocker, Moe's more of a blocker and a jump ball guy, and Mallory, I guess, outplayed him in camp. So it kind of just left him as the odd man out. Moving on to receivers, you know the big three, the other big three here, not the big three quarterbacks. Now we're to the big three Colts wide receivers. And it's a good collection with Pittman, Downs, and Pierce. I kind of think Downs is the best, but I also have Michael Pittman rated higher. It's interesting to say that, but I would love Pittman to be. He's very physical, right? He's not the best athletic, the most athletic receiver in the world, and you wouldn't expect him to be. He's like 6'4", 220, right? But there's also been guys with his size that are like Julio Jones, just as an example. And no one expected Michael Pittman to be Julio Jones. I'm just saying, like, we don't have an elite level talent receiver like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think Downs could become that kind of player. But again, is it going to happen with Daniel Jones? I don't know. And then Pierce, I wanted to note, he is in a contract year. There's been a little wave of like trade speculation seeming to come out of nowhere. If we're not doing well and if we're not planning on re-signing him, it would kind of make sense to trade him. That would be a bummer though, because I really like this trio. And you probably don't do that unless you're getting something out of AD Adonai Mitchell. And I kind of don't expect that to happen either this year, so we'll see. But he's there. Ashton Doolin's hanging around. I really like him. He's been a really good depth receiver and special teams guy. And it seems like when he gets the ball in his hands, I think he only had a couple catches last year, but he had like a 50-yard catch. Seems like maybe he should be playing more. I don't know. And then Anthony Gould, return guy, gadget type of guy. He's like 5'8". So he's hanging around as well. The offensive line, there's two notable detractions here in Ryan Kelly and Will Fries, who both left for the Vikings. But you still have Bernard Ryman, who I'm not as high, I guess, on as some, because I've seen his Madden rating and it's like an 87 or something. It's like, how did we get here? Does PFF have him graded so highly that Madden thinks he's an 87? Maybe he is. Maybe I'm just, a sad Colts fan who watches the games and doesn't necessarily see an 87, but an 81's good. And same with Quentin. Like, Quentin's still graded as one of the top linemen in the league, and sometimes I see it, and sometimes not so much. Sometimes I'm like, maybe Bradley Chubb was the move. Not really, but sometimes. Tanner Bortolini and Matt Goncalves step into the starting lineup. Danny Penter, in a pinch, could play one of those spots if one of those guys doesn't work out. Braden Smith is back, which I think is good. If he can return to his best football in the last couple years, which, again, not as good as he once was in his first couple years, but if he can get back to like that 80-plus range, that would be great on the right side. You've got Luke Tenuta, who's bounced around between us and the Bills. Likely made the roster because of Blake Freeland's injury. Unfortunately, he's on IR. And then Jalen Travis, I think, was a fourth-round pick this year. Another athletic guy. We drafted Blake Freeland and he's maybe going to get hurt. Well, how about let's just draft Jalen Travis too? We'll have another one. Obviously, you wouldn't know the injury was coming, but you know what I mean. And then Dalton Tucker was an undrafted guy last year who played and did not look great, but he's here. And, hopefully we don't have to re sign Mark Glowinski again to come play right guard for us. I did kind of think we would sign a veteran at one of those positions, and maybe Goncalves wouldn't necessarily have to start at right guard right away, but that's what we're going with. So we'll see how it goes. See, you can tell how optimistic I am. So then there's the D line. Quiddy Pay. I should note as well. I think he's playing on his 5th-year option now, so he's an impending free agent. Another player that's there seemingly has been some trade speculation about. And again, if we're not going to re-sign him, he could be pretty expensive. Dio Denbo got a pretty nice deal with the Bears, and he was his backup. So Quiddy, despite not being a great, true number one edge type of guy, could still be pretty expensive, and that may not be something the Colts want to do long term. So keep an eye on him as well. Leatu Latu, I was excited about, did not have a great rookie season. Really just didn't do very much. And Samson Ubicom, who's back, was out all of last year. We designated him to return, even though was it an ACL? It's like his injury was like a for sure season-long injury, but for whatever reason, we spent one of our 2 designated to return spots on him. I never understood why we did that. You think on the off chance he's able to come back 2 months early, I guess. I don't know. Tyquan Lewis, pardon me. He's still hanging around, and I like him out of Ohio State. I do expect his his Ohio State brethren, JT Tuimoloau, to kind of surpass him on the depth chart and get not a lot of snaps, but get more snaps than Tyquan, and maybe even Samson Ubicom. And if we trade Quiddy Pay, is there a path to him being a starter this season other than, injuries, which, again, you can always bring that up as a possibility. So we're just going to cross our fingers and hope not to see any injuries, but it's inevitable. You just never know. The interior guys, I still love Buckner. I still love Grover. We're still taking a swing at paying a 3rd guy, and we paid Neville Gallimore a decent contract to be the 3rd guy. And I kind of wish we would just stop doing that, because we paid Raekwon Davis, and we had Taven Bryan hanging around for a couple years. And it's like we're kind of overpaying these guys to be the DT3 for what they're producing or for what their actual talent is. And when you have a player like Adebawore at the bottom there, it's like I want to see him. We drafted him 3 years ago, and he hasn't barely played at all. Can he play in the interior? Is he more of an edge? If he can be a Dio Denbo type of guy, he should probably be out there. But we had to have Neville Gallimore on a 2-year, whatever it was, 10 million, 12 million contract. And then Eric Johnson's back. We drafted him. Oh, sorry about that. Let me throw my laptop. We drafted him a couple years ago. Didn't make the roster. Signed with the Patriots. And I think maybe had a stop with the Raiders as well. But he's back. So, that's our D-line depth. It's not a bad D-line, but we really just don't have that elite pass rusher, which is a bummer because our top 2 guys were first-round picks. So, that's not to say I'm giving up on Latu as his potential of being and becoming a number 1 true edge guy, but I want to see it happen. Somebody do it. Somebody break out, please. I feel like we haven't had a great pass rusher since 1 year of Danico Autry. He's on IR for the Texans, unfortunately. I don't know if that means the year or not, but I saw he was hurt. That was a bummer. To the linebacking core, led, quote unquote, by Zaire Franklin. And I say led in quotation marks because there's some questions about Is Zaire Franklin a team guy? Which sounds dumb to say, right? I don't know how deep that goes. I don't know if there's any truth to him not being. But the other question is like, he had like a campaign on his podcast for people to vote for him to make the Pro Bowl, and he made the Pro Bowl, and he's a good linebacker, I suppose. Like, I have him at an 80 overall. I don't think that's too high, but I also don't really think it's too low. And I miss my guy EJ Speed, who went to the Texans, and even more so, if you're a Colts fan, you already know who I'm gonna say. I miss Darius Leonard, bro. Darius Leonard, other than probably Gary Brackett, is my favorite Colts linebacker of all time. He had a Hall of Fame trajectory, not just like a Ring of Honor trajectory or the Hall of Very Good for your team trajectory. He had a Hall of Fame trajectory. And he was another linebacker that wasn't particularly amazing in coverage. Yet his rookie season as a linebacker at like 225 maybe pounds, he had 8 sacks. And then we just stopped using him as a pass rusher. And he would force like 10 fumbles. I don't remember the forced fumble number, but he would lead the league in turnovers caused. And it's like, this guy's a menace. I want pictures of Darius Leonard. And then he changed his name. And then he had bad injuries. And then we cut him. And I got sad. because of that. I got sad. Man, was such a good player. I miss Darius Leonard, dude. And none of that has anything to do with Zaire Franklin. But I miss Darius Leonard, bro. We've also let Bobby Okereke walk out the door and go to the Giants. Anthony Walker is actually back on the practice squad, former Colts draft pick and starter for 4 years, I think. I'm not hopeful that Zaire is like, oh yeah, he's a top 10 linebacker. It's like, yeah, he's gonna get tackles, but I don't think he's gonna be that high of a player. And I think he's still under contract for maybe 2 more years. So you look at what's around him, right? Okay, what other linebackers do we have? Well, Jalen Carlies, a converted safety, is on IR to start the season. He is designated to return. We picked up Chad Muma from the Jaguars off waivers, so I would kind of expect him to be our LB2 to start the season. Or there's Joe Bocci, former Bengal. And then the other two that we have, Cameron McGrone, who was formerly kind of a good college player at Michigan, and Sagoon Olubi, who actually I kind of liked him on some plays, and then he got hurt last season, and he's back, but he made the roster, which is good, but he kind of figures to be the special teams guy of these 5 that are currently on the roster. So we really didn't do much to replace EJ Speed, and we still really haven't replaced Darius Leonard because he was so good, man. I miss Darius Leonard, bro. I hope he's well. Moving. It's looking pretty good. This might be my favorite group on the entire team. Javarius Ward comes over from the Niners. Cam Bynum comes from the Vikings. Still have Kenny Moore. Still have Nick Cross. Jalen Jones had an up and down season, but he played much better than I thought he was going to for whatever reason. Our secondary really last year was pretty poor, so that's why most of our secondary is new. Outside of him, Kenny and Nick Cross, the additions of Ward and Bynum, Xavier Howard out of semi-retirement. He's here, and he may even start over Jalen Jones. I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but yeah, it's nice to have him for depth. Mekhi Blackman, also acquired from the Vikings in a trade this time. And then Jonathan Edwards makes the squad as an undrafted rookie special teamer. Backup safety is Rodney Thomas, who's been hanging around. It seems like he makes a play, like one play a year. He'll make a play, and it's like, oh, Rodney Thomas, hey, good to see you. It's like, well, he's backup safety and he doesn't play, but he made that one play. And then Daniel Scott, he's also missed the past 2 seasons. We mentioned Jelani Woods. Daniel's missed 2 years with injuries, and he's back and he's made the team. So I'm happy for him. And we had, who was it last year, the safety we had? Not Liam Anderson. There was a safety we had last year that I wasn't particularly fond of on special teams. So if Daniel Scott plays better than that guy, I've already blocked out his name, I guess, I'll be pretty happy. But as a group, I expect this to be like kind of one of the best secondaries in the league. Is that crazy to say about a Colts secondary? I don't think that's ever been the case. Although, Vontae Davis, RIP, was a great corner for a bit with the Colts and with the Dolphins before that. But, man, like Kelvin Hayden, Gerard Powers days is like the best corner duo I can think of. If Ward, Kenny, Jalen Jones, Xavier Howard play up to what I think they can be, I think this could be a really good secondary and kind of help out the pass rush as well, get better. You'd like to see it, certainly. If you're a Colts fan, you'd really like to see the pass rush and the secondary working in tandem to cause some havoc on offenses, but we'll see. Finally, our specialists. Spencer Schrader, full-time kicker for the first time this season. He's looked fine. I don't want to project how many misses he'll have this year, but I think he'll be an okay kicker. It's fine. Rigoberto Sanchez has kind of been one of the best punters in the league, and because he's not Pat McAfee, people around the league don't realize that. But he's kind of been like a top 5, maybe even top 10 punter in the league for his whole career, which is kind of an interesting tidbit about this group to move on from Hunter Smith to Pat McAfee, who was great, legitimately, as a punter, as a onside kick specialist, as a tackler on special team. Like, he was just a great player. Rigoberto's kind of been very good as well. Maybe not to Pat's level, but relative to the league, I think he's been top 10 his whole career. And then Luke Rhodes as well as a long snapper. I know we're getting into the nitty-gritty talking about the Colts long snapper here on this video. But I really like Luke Rhodes. He seems to make a lot of tackles. I can't think of a bad long snap that he's had since he's been here. Matt Overton before him, Justin Snow before him were very good, and Luke's been very good. I can't think of a time where he was like, oh, that Luke Rhodes, he had a bad snap again. Ah, darn. I really can't think of a time. So that is my Colts roster breakdown. Hope you enjoyed that. All in all, like, I'm still excited to see the team play. I'm scared, dude. I'm scared to see Daniel out there. And I kind of expect to see Anthony after a few games. But we'll see. Now it's time for my 2025 NFL season predictions. We'll start with the AFC. Start with the North and the South. And right away you're going to notice a couple of things. There's 2 teams in particular that I'm very low on as far as their records go, being the Browns and the Titans. But the other thing you'll notice, just as I finished talking about the Colts, I have us going only 7-10. And spoiler alert, that is not going to be enough to make the playoffs in this year's AFC. So that's probably going to cause some changes to occur among the coach, potentially even the GM, and the quarterback room. So we'll start with the North, though. The Browns going 2-15. I'm just not real high on the Browns, and they have some excellent players. Myles Garrett is a top 5 defensive player, still signed for what, $40 million a year, which at the time was crazy. Oh, $40 million, and then Micah Parsons got 47, and it's like, well, maybe Myles Garrett at $40 million is a bargain. But I really just don't think they're going to win many games. And like I said, I'm not going to. In this video, I'm not showing like every single win loss, but adding up to 2-15, it seems pretty harsh. But I also just don't expect them to win very many games. It's a really tough division. You've got the Steelers doing their yearly 9-8 thing. You've got the Ravens winning the division with the Bengals, putting up a strong record. I don't see a path for Cleveland to be very good this year. And for the AFC South, kind of similar. It's not as good of a division, but I don't see the Titans as ready to be a really competitive roster this year. The best thing the Titans can do, and really for the Browns too, is to develop their quarterback / for the Browns at least, figure out who is going to be the quarterback. If Flacco plays all season and they go 2-15, it's just you're being stupid to have him out there for 17 games. It's unlikely he's going to play all 17 games, right? So what I would want to see if I'm a Browns fan, can Dylan Gabriel be the guy? Can Shedeur Sanders be the guy? Can we figure that out within this season? And I get like writing them off immediately is rough. Like, no matter what you do, you're going 2-15. But they're starting Joe week 1. So how many games before Joe is not starting? And then how many games are both Gabriel and Sanders going to actually get to try to show what they can do in the league and see if they can be the starter going forward? That really is the biggest question for the Browns, I would say. You get to move off Deshaun Watson after this season. One of the dumbest moves professional sports history. I mean, is that I don't think that's crazy to say. There were people that thought Deshaun was a top 5 quarterback before the stuff that occurred, and I was never really that high on him. If I would love to go back and find my rankings from like 5+ years ago and see where I actually had Deshaun ranked, because I guarantee you it was not top 5. It really was never that high. He made some plays against the Colts, but I never really thought like he played great against the Colts. And Andrew Luck, by the way, his final win came in the playoffs against Deshaun Watson and the Texans. And then we went on to lose to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, who would win their first Super Bowl that year. And then Andrew retired, and the great sadness engulfed my life. But that's okay. We move on, and we talk about these teams. And the Colts going 7-10, as I mentioned, probably going to cause some moves to be made. Jaguars going 8-9. There are some people that do have them in the playoffs this year, and I get that because Travis Hunter's exciting. I look at this as a building year for them. Like, get Trevor Lawrence back on track. Get your offensive line settled. You've got weapons in Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter. Figure out what he's going to do primarily in the NFL. If he's really going to play both positions, or if he's going to play one as a primary and one like several snaps a game. Like, figure that out. Get Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen. Get that pass rush duo going. And kind of just try to set things up for the next year. Which, again, it doesn't sound great if you're a Jags fan watching this. You're like, oh, this biased Colts guy doesn't like my team. I actually like Trevor a lot. Despite having him at, 21st in my rankings. I do like Trevor, and I believe in him as a franchise quarterback. I was worried, bro. When he got drafted, I was worried. Oh, it's the Jags division now every year, and it hasn't panned out that way. But I do have them going 8-9, which is a losing record, but it's up there in the AFC, to be honest. Just not quite maybe in the playoff picture. Texans win the division at 10-7, kind of low, but also while again I love the quarterback, I like Stroud a lot. I'm not a huge fan of their offseason. All of the offensive line moves they made, I kind of get. Like Laramie Tunsil is a really good left tackle, still. He also leads the league in penalties, and you just kind of don't need that if you're CJ Stroud. Now, one of the players that they brought in was Trent Brown, who they actually cut. Would have been their starting right tackle, I would have thought, but he got cut, and then he ends up back on the practice squad. So that was an intriguing move. They traded Kenyon Green, a former first round pick. I wouldn't necessarily say bust when you take a guard in the top like 20 and he's no longer on your team after a couple years. It's kind of a bust, right? But he wasn't necessarily terrible, just didn't really pan out. They traded him for C.J. Chauncey Gardner Johnson, and he got hurt. And then Kenyon Green also got hurt. So that was a mess. But I like the Texans' defense. Derek Stingley, I really loved him as a prospect. Um, yeah, I kind of just expect the Texans to be the best team in this division. I think most people do. So we'll keep it moving. AFC East and West. Whoa, who's that? Who's that? She there. Okay. Man, it's almost like when you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, you're just bound to see Taylor Swift, huh? Anyway, the AFC East. I'm sorry for that one. New York Jets going 4-13 is rough because I really do like Justin Fields as a person. I don't really think it's going to work out that good for the team success this season for the Jets, and it's also the Jets, right? Shout out Mike Greenberg. When was the last time you heard Mike Greenberg talk? Was it the draft? Was he even on the draft coverage this year? I honestly don't remember. I don't know. Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots going 8-9. Again, kind of setup years, which you really don't want to hear that as a Dolphins fan. With Tua, Tyreek Hill probably at the end of his prime, if not already having been past it, like when he got to Miami. I think he hasn't been as good in Miami as he was in Kansas City, and part of that is Tua is not Patrick Mahomes. But you'd like to see more if you're a Dolphins fan. You'd like to see him in the playoff picture. And 8-9 is awfully close, but spoiler, I got to tell you, it's not enough this year. Buffalo Bills going 14-3. I think they're probably the best roster in the league. At the very worst, they're like what, third? And again, the quarterbacks factor into that quite heavily, but like Bills, Chiefs, Ravens in the AFC, those are like the big three once again. So you expect to see them have a great season this year. And in the AFC West, the Chiefs also going 14-3. I was surprised by this. I did every game, and when I got to the end, it's like, oh, the Chiefs are also 14-3. That's crazy. It's a tough division, and the other three teams put up a really good fight. Denver and the LA Chargers having winning records, the Raiders being just one game off. It's a really good division. So if the Chiefs do not win 14 games, please don't come for me. But I think they're still going to be really good. The biggest downside of this team is probably Rashee Rice's suspension. And that's for the first 6 games of the year. It's not like that's going to matter, quote unquote, come playoff time. Now, that's not to say go do what Rashee Rice did, right? Don't do that. But as far as affecting the football on the field, I don't think it's going to hurt too bad. So the AFC playoff seedings: the Bills get the 1 seed, Chiefs, Ravens, Texans win their division, and then it's going to be the Bengals, Broncos, and Chargers get the 3 wildcard spots. I think this is probably most people's 7 playoff teams, and other than the Bengals, this is 6 of the same 7 playoff teams as a year ago for the AFC, I believe, right? Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, Texans, Broncos, Chargers. Who's missing? Is there a team that's missing here? No, Jacksonville didn't make it. I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to go back. Who's missing? Who? Tell me in the comments. No, somebody missed last year. I don't know, or somebody made that wasn't Cincinnati, right? Was it the? No, it was 2 years ago. It was the Browns. Man, it is too late. I'm an hour and 20 minutes into this thing, and it is too late to be trying to remember something that happened a year ago. But anyway, that's your AFC picture, playoff picture, and we'll get to the playoffs after on the NFC season predictions as we get a look at Fred Warner's face. We'll move to the NFC North and South, and we're going to come to the team that I'm probably the lowest on relative to everyone else. It's the Minnesota Vikings. And I talked about McCarthy, and I talked about Justin Jefferson. I like their defense. They did lose quite a bit in their secondary. They still have Harrison Smith. Their offensive line is good. They've, on paper, improved with the former Colts guys. Jordan Addison's suspension also is there, and don't do what he did either. They still have Aaron Jones. Roster, pretty good. This is also still a really tough division, despite the Bears also going under 500. And again, it was kind of surprising when I got to the end of the season. I was like, man, the Vikings only 6 wins. That seems pretty low. Part of it comes down to McCarthy and his lack of experience, which he needs in order to have experience going forward past this year, right? Like, if you want the Vikings to compete in 2026, you didn't want to have to bring back Darnold, or you didn't want to have a gap year with Daniel Jones if you were the Vikings. So I'm just a little lower on them. I think they have a good roster. It's certainly possible that they could still make the playoffs, but coming out at 6-11 was surprising a little bit even to myself, who made the predictions. My brother in Christ, you made the prediction. I know. I know I did. I get it. Chicago Bears at 7-10. You hope you see a little more from Caleb Williams this year as well. Talking specifically about the quarterbacks. They weren't able to draft, Genty. They did draft Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, so some playmakers on offense. I worry about the O-line. I kind of worried about the entire defense. I'm just not sure how good the Chicago Bears are going to be. I think they'll be better coach. I like Ben Johnson. I think him being openly hard on the entire team in the public, in the media, is kind of odd. You don't really see that from rookie first-year head coaches. But he's kind of earned the ability by staying with Detroit for so long to come in and be that demanding. To be I was in Detroit. We had great success. If you guys want to have that same kind of success, we need to do it, this way. XYZ. Caleb learned these plays. Blah blah blah. Oh, you're not doing it good enough. All these things that he said. He's kind of earned that right to already be saying those kinds of things. And I do wonder how the players will respond to that, particularly, and most importantly, Caleb Williams. So we'll see how they go this year. I think they're still a year away, probably. But we'll see. Detroit Lions at 10-7. Also, probably seems kind of low. I really like the Lions, and I really want them to succeed. I wanted them to win throughout the NFC last season. It just didn't really happen with the injuries. I mentioned Goff didn't play as well in that final playoff game. And, man, 17 games, it's a lot of games. 10 wins is still a really nice season. They put themselves solidly in the playoff picture by winning 10 games. So, you know, will fans be mad if they only win 10 games in the regular season? If they win, you know, multiple games in the playoffs, for instance? Not to spoil anything, if that were to happen, but I don't think so. I mean, I would take a 10-7 season from the Colts. Heck yeah, dude. But then there's the Green Bay Packers, who I think were already like borderline the top team in this division headed into the season. The Micah Parsons trade really did it for me. Like, yeah, this is the best, maybe the best team in the NFC, not just the North. Um, it's a weird situation, right? Like they had to give up the picks, which I mean, you do that in a heartbeat. Giving up Kenny Clark does reduce how effective your D line is going to be, but wouldn't you rather have the elite pass rusher than a very good, still older run defending D tackle? Even if you have to trade the picks on top, I think you take the elite pass rusher every time. So you get Micah. 13-4 is lofty. There's a world where Jordan Love just isn't capable of elevating them up to 13 wins. I get that. Especially, like I said, it's a tough division, too. You could lose a game or two to the Vikings. You could lose a game or two to the Lions. You could go on the road to Chicago and lose a game. So it's a tough division, but those are my expectations for that team, I guess. Then there's the NFC South, which isn't quite as tough of a division. The Saints, much like the Browns, figure out if Tyler Shuck can be your quarterback, which already seems counterintuitive to be starting Spencer Rattler week 1. But if you go through Rattler and you go through Shuck and you don't think either of them can be your starting quarterback, and you only win 4 games, you're in prime position to draft a quarterback in next year's class. So figure it out. If you do think there's a chance Shuck could be your starting quarterback of the future, then you can pass or you can trade down, you know. But you have to figure that out. Like, every year you gotta more so at the quarterback position than any other spot, right? Because everywhere you need depth, but you're not going to take a quarterback in the first round if you already have a guy that you think, like, oh yeah, this is our franchise. Like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for instance, while they still have Baker Mayfield, you're not going to see them draft a quarterback in the first round. Like, well, if Baker gets hurt, we need to have depth. Do you know who the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backup quarterback is? Teddy Bridgewater. They had Kyle Trask, and remember they had drafted him while Tom Brady was still there. It was before Baker got there, so they were drafting him. When Tom Brady's 40 plus, that's different than taking a guy when your quarterback is like 30, right? But I kind of went out of order again. But the Falcons and Panthers are also teams that I kind of see are a year away. And if Bryce Young is great, and if Michael Penix is great, you could see them, make a run at the division, I suppose. A 9-win division team in 2025, that's not great. So if you can get up there and challenge at 9 wins, more power to you. But I don't necessarily expect it from either of them this season. NFC East and West. In the East, again, the Giants, I don't have great expectations for them. I think they'll be competitive in games. I think Russell is still good enough to have them be competitive. But I also don't have them winning very many games. So, do you turn to Jackson Dart? You're probably not going to draft a quarterback the year after drafting a guy in the first round, unless you're the Cardinals. Then you take Kyler Murray at 1. But, I mean, it was Josh Rosen, so you kind of had to. Dallas Cowboys. Sorry to take a shot at Josh Rosen there. Dallas Cowboys 6-11 isn't great. Tim the Tapman is not going to like this one. But I really don't believe in him this year. Dak, he'll be fine. Again, he's in that tier where it's like he's borderline top 10 when he's playing at his best. I think that's more than fair to say. I don't think it's mean to say, oh, he's only 12. He's only the 12th best. Like, that's pretty high relative to who's behind him. I just don't see him leading the team to the playoffs this year. CeeDee Lamb's great. Their O-line is continuously getting first-round picks added to it because despite Jerry being crazy, he keeps actually drafting good offensive line talent for the most part. Like Zach Martin retired, but I mean the draft pick of him and the pick of before him, Tyron Smith was great. Travis Frederick was great. La'el Collins, who went undrafted, which was crazy because he didn't do anything. Yeah, he recently just got released by them again, but was a very good player throughout the prime of his career. What's the defense going to be like, though? Are the corners going to be healthy? They just paid Bland, like, what was it, 4 years for $90 million? That's a lot of money, dude. What is that, like $22.5 million per? Is that right? Is Trayvon Diggs going to be healthy? Do they have a quality linebacker? Are they going to get pressure on the QB with any of their, depth guys that they had behind Micah Parsons? I don't know. Commanders, I kind of gushed about Jaden Daniels earlier, and an 11-6 record would probably warrant me moving him up the tier list a little bit. But then you come to the Eagles up 13-4, and you're like, maybe Jalen Hurts should be in that tier 1 conversation. But again, part of it is they have such a great team. I do expect the Eagles to be, and I guess along with the Packers, as evidenced by my picks, kind of the class of the NFC. But then you get over here to the West. Cardinals, 6-11 again, not a great year, but try to build on something at least. Like a Kyler Murray to Marvin Harrison Jr. connection would be nice. Finding your, who's actually good on defense. I got a little pushback in some comments, I think twice last year from Cardinals fans who were like, oh, are you mocking offensive players? We run the ball. We don't need offense. And it's like, I hear you. I realize you have James Conner and you have, Trey Benson and Trey McBride there already, and you've already got 2 receivers. I was trying to give him Matthew Golden at the time. And the Cardinals IRL ended up going defense, which is great. Are they going to have a great defense this year, though? And is their offense going to be, out of the bottom 10? I don't really foresee that being the case. I love Marvin Jr. for sure. Trey McBride's a really good tight end. They're just kind of one of those teams in the league that's like, Kyler's fun. They've got some fun players. They've got some talent. Buda Baker, great safety. Got caught by DK that one time. That was a cool play. That wasn't a positive for Buda, but, it was a cool play. They had Larry Fitzgerald for a long time. He was an all-time great. And that's kind of the things I think about when I think about the Cardinals. Not like, oh yeah, they've had such great success over the last 5 years. So a 6-11 season certainly is not a great success. We'll leave it at that. Seattle at 9-8, putting themselves in the picture, in the hunt with a winning record. First year with Sam Darnold to get a winning season would be nice. Cooper Kupp is there now, replacing DK. Got Jackson Smith and Jigba. You added DeMarcus Lawrence on defense as a rotational pass rusher, who's missed most of the last 2 years with Dallas. That's kind of a like both ways. That's a move that kind of has just gone under the radar. The Cowboys losing DeMarcus Lawrence after before way before obviously trading Micah Parsons, but those are their top two guys, and DeMarcus hasn't been around to play a bunch in the past two seasons, but he's been a starter, so it's kind of tough to lose him and Micah as well, obviously. But Seahawks picked him up. He'll be a rotational guy. They have like Boye Mafe, so is it Derek Hall? I think is also a starter there. It's a solid team. I think the offensive line needs some continued work, but going 9-8, you give yourself a chance. Maybe we'll see the standings. Rams at 10-7, no longer Cooper Kupp. They bring in Devontae Adams to replace him. Puka. You have a potentially healthy Matthew Stafford. They signed Kyron Williams back. I think their secondary lacks some punch, but as I mentioned, the front four is still very, very good. So I expect them in playoff consideration. And then I actually have the Niners winning the division here. It seems like they lost a lot more than they actually did, right? Because they traded Debo, but you paid Brock Purdy. You have Christian McCaffrey coming back. Brandon Ayuk will be out for a while, so that doesn't help. You still have George Kittle. You still have Trent Williams. That offense should still be very good, I think. And defensively, still got Nick Bosa. You lost, Javon Hargrave. They drafted a couple of defensive linemen and pass rushers and linebackers. They went pretty heavy on defense as well. I kind of expect them to just chug along again and they won 11 games. Wow, they won the division. Oh, wow. That's kind of my expectation of them. I think they're a notch above the Rams, and I think the Rams are a notch above the Seahawks. So it's kind of funny to see they're within one win of each other. But that's the NFC West. The NFC playoff seedings. And here we do see the Seahawks actually miss. They would have been the 8 seed, I think it would have been. So the Eagles get the 1. Packers, Niners, Bucks win their division. And then it's the Commanders, Rams, and the Lions at the 7 seed who sneak into the playoffs at 10-7. It's going to set up some fun games, and you'll see it. Here is the playoff predictions section. Right away, let's get to it. Obviously, your 1 seeds won't play in the wild card round, but for the AFC, you've got the Chiefs, Chargers. That's a divisional matchup. You've got the Ravens, Broncos, Texans, Bengals. And in the NFC, the Packers, Lions, division matchup. 49ers, Rams, division matchup. Buccaneers, Commanders. So half of your wildcard games are going to be division matchups. That's always fun. What I've done here, I did make my predictions. I also assigned a score. You don't have to care so much about the score. It's just like, what do I think would happen if these two teams meet in the playoffs this year? So, first wildcard round predictions: Chiefs over the Chargers by a touchdown. Ravens over the Broncos by 10. Bengals went on the road over the Texans by 8. Packers up a field goal on the Lions. That would be very, very sad. As someone who does want to see the Lions succeed, to go out in Green Bay by a field goal, that would be tough. Niners over the Rams by 2, and then Commanders a 10-point win on Tampa. So 2 upsets, 2 road wins. Maybe not huge upsets, as it's the final divisional team losing in each conference, but we move to the divisional round, where it's going to be the 1, 2, 3, and 5 in both conferences. We got Bills taking on the Bengals, Chiefs hosting Ravens again, Eagles, Commanders, and then Packers, Niners. And predictions here: the Bills are going to get it done in a shootout with the Bengals, but the Chiefs are going to survive the Ravens again in a much lower scoring game, only by a field goal. That kind of just seems to be what happens in the playoffs with Lamar It's unfortunate, but that's the prediction. Eagles get it done over the Commanders by a touchdown, and then the Niners squeak by the Packers on the road, the only road team to win for me in the divisional, with a field goal margin. So that's the conference round. The Bills and Chiefs, the 1 and the 2. The Eagles and the Niners, the 1 and the 3. And no suspense here. The 1 seed's getting it done by less than a score. Bills by a point. Eagles by 2. Wouldn't that just be exciting? Not if you're a Chiefs or a Niners fan, I suppose. But close games between these teams. These are the 4 teams over the last couple of years that I'm like, yeah, they've been in the Super Bowl every year. Like one of these two, I guess not the Bills. Sorry, Bills. They made a bunch of Super Bowls at one time. They made 4 in a row. Super Bowl LX. The Bills and the Eagles, the 1 seed. And not to leave you in suspense at all, we got the Bills taking it by a point. Josh Allen, Super Bowl MVP, and Sean McDermott escaping the yearly hot seat that he seems to be on, despite being one of the best coaches in the league. Oh, they lost to Mahomes. He needs to go. Just wait. You never know. They could get it done this year, and that's going to be the prediction. With the predictions, we've got the awards for the season. So I've got Josh Allen winning the MVP as well, regular season MVP. Cam Ward, I gave him Offensive Rookie of the Year, which probably seems obvious if you think about it. Unless you're like, well, Travis Hunter's going to win both. He's going to be the offensive and the defensive rookie, which would be insane. More power to him if he does. But Cam Ward, these awards are primarily quarterback awards. These first 2, anyway. And Cam Ward is going to be the only rookie quarterback to start from week 1. So that kind of gives him the edge immediately. Even if he doesn't have an amazing season, 3,000 yards, 20-plus touchdowns, probably gets it done, despite the record as well. And then defensive rookie, I did go with Mason Graham over Abdul Carter, or Travis Hunter, I suppose. Those were the 3 I considered. I really like Mason Graham, despite, being a Buckeyes fan. I like him as a player. I like him as a prospect. And, the Browns moved down, still got Mason Graham, picked up a first-round pick. Mason Graham can play next to Myles Garrett. That's helpful. So I think he'll have a really good season. I think that might surprise people, but picking him over Abdul Carter here. Then Defensive Player of the Year, I did mention him earlier. Both these next 2 players, actually. Jalen Carter. The Eagles' defense on paper, maybe not quite as good as it's been, but you still have Jalen Carter, who is still getting better and better, and I think will be severely dominant this season. I don't know how else to describe that, but I think he's going to be great. And then Comeback Player of the Year goes to Aiden Hutchinson, and I think he was leading the league, or he was tied in sacks before he got hurt last year. So again, health aside, if he stays healthy, which is something you could say about any player or any prediction, I think Aiden will come back, rank high in terms of sacks, which isn't the end all be all of how good a player is, of course, on defense, but it doesn't hurt. He comes back from injury. Oh, he had 15 sacks. Oh, that's pretty good. And then Coach of the Year. Now, I could be wrong, but I did look. And Kyle Shanahan, again, unless I just am blind, has not won Coach of the Year ever. And I was very surprised at that. He finished 3rd a couple of years ago, second actually, behind Brian Dable, who won with the Giants. And it was a good year for the Giants. I think they won 9 or 10 games. And I think the 49ers won 13 that year. I was shocked he hasn't won the award before. And while I don't have the 49ers being the best team in the NFC, I do have them being, 10-7, correct? And winning their division, or no, 11 11-6, right? Winning their division, and the perception of the Niners might be like, oh, they're kind of descending. They've paid Brock Purdy now, so the Super Bowl window might be closed or closing. But I think it's still open a crack, and I think Kyle Shanahan's still a great coach, and I think Brock. I have them in the NFC Championship game, so I think he's good enough to lead them at least that far this year. And going to reward Kyle Shanahan with the hardware. Give him Coach of the Year. There's also Man of the Year. I didn't want to predict Man of the Year because I don't know, honestly. I think Kenny Moore's been eligible for it for the Colts before, so I'll say Kenny. I like Kenny. He's a good dude, I'm sure, right? So, Man of the Year, Kenny Moore. That's going to lead me to the mock draft, and as you can see, QB free. Now, you might be saying to yourself, look, now, you're dumb. Why would you make a mock draft and not have a single quarterback in the mock draft? Why would you do it? My answer is, while I do have my personal list of quarterbacks ranked, and we'll get to that after the mock, I don't want to commit to a team needing to draft quarterback in the first round yet. And of these primarily 8 right here, quarterbacks, I don't have any of them so highly in my mind where it's like, oh, Drew Waller, slam dunk, top 5 pick. Or the same with Sellers or Arch if he turns things around the rest of the season. Or Nussmeier, any of these 8, or anybody else. Carson Beck was originally going to be on this page, and I was like, oh, I forgot Mendoza. So I swapped him out. And Carson Beck could have a very good year in Miami. So are quarterbacks inevitably going to be drafted as we take a look at the draft order? Yeah, probably. If the Browns are picking first and Shador got to play and Gabriel got to play and they're like, they'll probably just take a quarterback at 1, right? The Saints at 3, if Tyler Shuck plays a little, doesn't look great, they could very well take a QB at 3. The Jets at 4 could take a QB. The Rams, if Matt Stafford retires, thanks to the Falcons, and by the way, that 6-11 record applies to the Falcons, and the same with the Jags down there. The 8-9 applies to the Jags, not the Browns. But there's certainly teams that could consider QB here, like the Colts, even at 11. I would be very sad. Unless it works out, and then I'd be very happy. The Browns again at 14. Maybe they take a different position and then go QB at 14. That could happen, I suppose. We see the second half. There's not really a team that sticks out that's like, oh, they need a quarterback. That Micah Parsons pick right now listed at 27. Not great for the Cowboys. But it's still an extra first-round pick. That's pretty valuable. So that's the draft order. I told you I'm not taking any QBs. Let's get into it. The Browns at pick 1 and the Titans at pick 2 are going to pick up some Clemson D-line beasts. TJ Parker, Peter Woods. Largely going to be the top 2 players on most people's big boards. Caleb Downs could be in that conversation as well for the very best overall player. But in terms of value as well, it's probably Parker and Woods right now for most. The Saints also go D-line with Bain. The Jets grab a receiver to pair with Garrett Wilson. I'm going to go through kind of fast because it has been almost 2 hours, and also because these, it's a mock draft with no quarterbacks. It's a little silly, and it's also kind of just trying to introduce the players to myself and to you guys watching. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time being like, yeah, I watched the Utah game, and Spencer Fano looked great, and he did this and that. Because, to be honest with you, I haven't watched Utah play. The only college game I watched was, I watched Ohio State beat Texas, of course. But I also watched Clemson LSU. That's pretty much all I've watched except for highlights. And I'll have to go back and watch some games. But I've been working on this as well. So anyway, Fano to the Giants would essentially be replacing Evan Neal slash whoever else is playing at right tackle. Marcus Mbow could possibly play tackle or guard, so I would just slide him into guard. Downs to the Rams. The Rams are going to take 2 swings at secondary players. We'll see the other one later. Panthers take McCoy to pair with J.C. Horn. Caleb Banks is interesting because I did a mock draft recently and I didn't actually have him in the first round. He's just kind of a mountain, and at this point last year, I had, what's his name? Deontay Walker? Is that his name? The huge D tackle from Kentucky. Deontay Walker? Deontay? Deontay does not sound right. I apologize if I'm getting it wrong. Drafted by the Bills though, and everyone was amazed at how good he played in preseason. And I'm like, yeah, I had him at pick 8, which was admittedly way too high. But he was also probably drafted lower than he should have been. Next group of 8, we got Jeremiah Love going to Dallas, the brother of A.J. Terrell going to the Vikings. Avion, I want to say. Colts go Keldrick Folk, another edge, which, what a Chris Ballard-esque thing of me to do. Bears go Austin Barber, who has recently become my top left tackle. Recently, as in literally today. Actually, yesterday, sorry. What time is it even? 2 days ago. It's well after midnight. 2 days ago, yes, he became my left tackle one. Carnell Tate to the Patriots. They've done a good job at just acquiring wide receiver talent, but I don't think they have a receiver on the roster that is going to be Drake May's number 1 guy for his career, or for his early career at least. So Tate paired with Kyle Williams and Douglas and even Boutte, that would be a really nice group of guys. You got Stephon Diggs for a year probably. I think they cut, was it Kendrick Bourne wanted his release. Shout out Jabril Peppers also, as well, who got released. I don't know why I'm shouting him out, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it anyway. Caleb Lamu, the other Utah tackle, going to the Browns. Dolphins and Raiders take take 2. They each take a corner. All right, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Do you understand me? That's what I'm trying to say. Seahawks. This name just seems like a Seahawk. Francis Mauigoa. Big old right tackle. Just kind of seems like a Seahawk. And then Mekhi Lemon to the Steelers to pair with DK. I like that fit, and I hope he doesn't turn into a diva. Because, Steelers receivers. But we're also going to have a couple of linebackers going in this first round since, there's no quarterbacks. We got C.J. Allen from Georgia. You see Anthony Hill down there in a few picks. But Tacario Davis, the very tall corner out of formerly Arizona, transferred to Washington. It's, as I mentioned, the secondary player to the Rams of this mock. Mateo Uiagalelei. I definitely didn't say that one right. I've never been able to say it. His bro, who is now on the Chargers practice squad. Uiagalelei. It's tough. I'll get it eventually. You might say the Texans don't need an edge. Daniil Hunter is 30, which obviously isn't that old, but it's nice to have a good rotation. 3 guys is we got it made now. Mentioned Anthony Hill. Jake Slaughter I was high on last year until he decided to not declare. Excuse me. So, and again, talk about a name that sounds like they belong on a team. Jake Slaughter, the new center for the Lions. Yeah, sign me up. Isaiah World to the Broncos. I like this fit. I really like him as a prospect already. and he could replace potentially Garrett Bowles at left tackle, or what I'm kind of thinking more realistically, Mike McGlinchey at right tackle would be the thought there. Final 8, Denzel Boston, big body receiver to the Commanders, to go with Terry McLaurin, of course. Luke McCaffrey, we'll see if they get much out of him. Excuse me. Maybe I should take a drink, Take 5 seconds to take a drink. There we go. We'll see if they get much out of Debo as well. I kind of feel like they'll use him as a running back more than we thought after trading away Brian Robinson, especially. But another receiver for the future couldn't hurt. Connor Liu is kind of new to my draft board as well, just in the last few days. But he's a center prospect that's getting a little bit of buzz as a first-round potential player. So to the Bengals, long-term center for Joe Burrow. No offense to Ted Karras, he's been all right. Maybe he's been their best offensive lineman since he's been there. But you never know. Maybe he could play guard. The third linebacker of the mock, Sonny Styles, my guy. They had him listed at like 6'5", 240 on the broadcast. I don't know about all that, but he is big, and he's put on weight, and he's a linebacker. He's not a safety, I don't think. I thought maybe he could be listed as like a Eamon Worry type, where it's like, yeah, he's probably a safety, but he could play linebacker. No, this guy's just a linebacker. And will he go first round? Will any of these linebackers go first round? Probably not. But it's fun, and it's early, so I'm doing it. Caden Proctor to the Ravens, another huge offensive lineman. Oh, wow, big surprise. The Ravens took him. Alabama player who's huge. Oh, I'm shocked. Probably a guard. Probably a guard at the next level. And, maybe if Ronnie Stanley were to leave or retire, he could play left tackle potentially. I think like Mekhi Becton, he's huge, and he probably shouldn't be a left tackle. But that's not to say he couldn't be a very good player. Then we got Nick Harbor, who had a 3-catch, 90-something yard game with a touchdown with Lenore Sellers as his QB. He looks good. You can see him right there in that picture. There he is. He looks good. He is 6'5", 235. That is a legit 6'5", 235. I don't really have a question about his weight. He's huge. And if he puts it together, he could be Calvin Johnson. No, I don't know about all that, but that's a bit high. That's a bit high to place on any prospect, let alone Nick Harbor here. So I won't do that. But he could be. He could be the greatest of all time. The Chiefs go with a corner in Muhammad from Texas, who has played okay in 2 games against Ohio State. Eagles go with the guard, Reed Adams, out of A&M, who was on my radar in the offseason, and I don't know if he's a true first-round prospect at the moment, but he's on my short list of guys who could go in the first round right now. So, and then the Bills going to go with another receiver. I like Khalil Shakir. I like Keon Coleman, but they've got some other guys like Josh Palmer, who I like. Curtis Samuel, who I like. Elijah Moore. I think a third guy for the future with Shakir and Coleman would be helpful for Josh Allen, your Super Bowl MVP, in my predictions. So that's it for the predictions in the mock draft. Here's what I was working with. And you do see my QB rankings. I do have Aller, Sellers, Nussmeier, Klubnik, and Mateer as the top 5. I don't have Arch up here. I like Arch, right? Like, I've talked so much about the teams I like. I'm a Colts fan. I like Arch Manning. That's not to say I need the Colts to draft Arch Manning this upcoming draft in the first round. I need it to happen. I like Arch. I hope he develops throughout the season and looks better. He didn't. He didn't look good, right? He didn't look awful, and I think there's already some people that are like, and maybe it's just joking, but there's already people writing him off as a bust and nepotism, and he was only so high ranked because his last name. I think that's completely unfair. I think he's incredibly talented. I don't think they played a great game all around Texas, and honestly, I don't think Ohio State played a great game either. It's first game of a college football season where you would normally play, Akron if you're Ohio State, or what's a team Texas would play early? I don't know. Tarleton State, who beat Army. You play Army week one, It's not typical that you play a top three team as a top three team to start the season. So tune up game. Yeah, they tuned up, I guess. All that to say, I expect more from Arch the rest of the season. I could see him not going pro. I know he and Archie and the other Mannings have taken kind of a very slow approach around that fact, and obviously you're not going to say like, yeah, I'm going to go to the draft no matter what, and then you have a rough year, and it's like, oh well, maybe I'll stay after all. So that's why he's not there. You know, in future mocks, I will consider him, and I probably won't do another video specifically about a mock for months. At least like 2 months to let the NFL season get going, to get the draft order a little bit more solidified and realistic, and then to also get the college football season through most, and to actually have an idea of where I think these players will be drafted or could be drafted. Obviously, it's still going to be before the end of the season and way before the combine even. So a lot will change, but these once again are the players I was looking at. Kamari Ramsey was a player I just added to my board in the last day, and my receiver rankings actually changed. You'll see in these rankings some changes that I haven't made, unfortunately. So, but yeah, you see Arch Manning at 8, Carson Beck 9, Josh Hoover. Shout out TCU beating old Bill. He might be a furry, but he beat Bill Belichick, so that's fine. Those are it's not a bad thing, and it's never a bad thing to score 48 points on Bill Belichick, which had never been done. So he's up into the conversation. I love Haynes King. I don't know if he's going to be an NFL quarterback, but I really like him as a player. Nico fell a lot. I had him in top 10 prior to this weekend's games. Jake Retzlaff has moved up a lot. Caden Salter moved down. I'll tell you who needs to move up, and I don't have his info yet, as in height and weight. But Thomas Castellanos, he may not be an NFL prospect, but he should be higher than 47, obviously. He should be maybe in the teens. I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. Running backs and receivers, and again, what I was talking about was like Nick Harbor. I have at 7 for wide receivers. I think I swapped him and KC Concepcion. One of those. Running backs, those two Penn State backs worry me as an Ohio State fan. Jaden Ott, transfer from West Virginia, is in there. Dylan Edwards is not at Colorado anymore for like 2 years. I don't know why it says Colorado down there. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why he's still there. I can't tell you where he is. At Kansas State? Maybe I can't tell you. I think he went to Kansas State. I don't know why he's still there. Did I mean to put Dallin Hayden? I don't think so, because Dylan Edwards, that's his height and weight. And he's still an intriguing player to me, but I don't know. I don't know what I did there. Why is he still at Colorado in my spreadsheet? I don't know. Eugene Wilson's a receiver. That's interesting. The LSU trio of receivers are all interesting. Um, Zachariah Branch now at Georgia, former USC guy. Deion Burks was a slot type guy that I liked last year, who I thought was in the draft for a while. I don't know if he just declared, or if he announced he was not declaring late, or what happened, but I had him on my draft board for up until the combine, I want to say. Evan Stewart was a guy I liked a lot more than I do at the moment. Antonio Gates Jr. is in there. We'll see about him. Tight ends and O line. I did not have any tight ends in the first round. There's a couple that I like a good amount, but just not enough to be first round prospects at the moment. Man, this could be the Oscar Delp season finally. You never know. You never know. Johnny Thurman down there, probably not a draftable player at the moment. Probably won't have a huge opportunity to prove himself this year at least. Ohio State is deep at tight end, despite not traditionally using tight ends in the receiving game very much. Offensive line. Nothing really changed that much. I think Ernest Green, him moving from left tackle to right tackle, I didn't know about, so I moved him over. Connor Liu moved up a few spots at center. Yeah, nothing really earth-shattering on the offensive line as far as guys going up and down the board. D-line, Kenyatta Jackson went up a fair bit, and I really like about the top 12 edge players there. I think are all well, this guy could potentially be at least a day 2 pick. I have Danny Dennis Sutton down there at 15 too, dude. I really like him. I think he's going to project well to the NFL. I don't know what kind of season he's going to have this year. Perkins at 220 now. He bulked up all the way to 220, former linebacker, but really a pass rusher. D tackles, Corleone, I like a good bit. Capehart is older, but another part on that Clemson defense. It's very good. Linebackers and secondary is going to be the last slide of players here. Recently, Whit Weeks moved up a lot. Harold Perkins continues to kind of drop. Eric Gentry is interesting. He was another guy that was on my draft board for a long time last year until I realized he didn't actually declare. And the same with Jason Henderson. I don't know how I just miss some guys sometimes, but I do. And then C.J. Hicks out of Ohio State, he's playing edge now. I guess he's a pass rusher now, but he's also not a starter, so I guess he's just kind of a rotational guy everywhere. And then you can see I didn't. Oh no, I got Ramsey on the board. Good. I forgot I did that, but I'm happy I did. Igbinosun, is he a top 10 corner in this class? Maybe. I like Pons out of IU too. It's just I don't see at the size him being a very high pick. How about Denver Harris? Where's he at? I don't know. Is he still at UTSA? Is that a thing? And then of course Caleb Downs, number 1 safety by a lot. And then there's some other good players here. I was high on Jalen Catalon 3 years ago. I feel like I don't know, man. I don't know if it's gonna pan out. But yeah, that's the video. Thon is over. It's been 2 hours and 8 minutes of recording. It would be very, very sad if this didn't record for some reason and I lost it all and I had to redo it. I can tell you it'd be much shorter if I did. But if you watched the entire video, you're awesome. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for the support in recent months. I haven't been posting a lot, but the mock drafts videos I did and even the Roblox videos I did kind of popped a little bit, which is just fun to see, right? My channel isn't monetized or anything, it's just cool to see, like, oh, some people actually like check that out. That's cool. So, as it says, thanks for listening to me yap. I've been yapping for 2 hours. Went over a lot of things, and that's why I kind of wanted the video to just be one long video. I didn't want to make like 4 half-hour or more long videos, which I guess could have, but they kind of just flowed into each other one after the other. The QBs, the Colts, the predictions, the mock draft and rankings. So, yeah, I just kind of decided to make one whole video and cram everything together and yap. So thanks for checking it out. See you in 3 months for the next mock. It might very well be. It could be 3 months. My goal would be to probably do one a little sooner than that, like 2 months, like I said. But yeah, that'll probably be the next sports video on the channel, unless I do one for NBA. I could also make NASCAR. Like, I don't know. I could do. You could see anything. You could see me come out with a Uma Musume video. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. But as far as gaming goes, I keep saying this in streams and on videos. I know I really want and need to play Cosmic Shake and finish that. And I have still not started Jedi Survivor. I want to stream them. I want to post them here. I want to, and I keep saying soon, and I just haven't done it. So soon, I don't know how soon, but still soon, it will happen. I'll do it. And those will be uploaded here once I stream them on Twitch. If you want to follow my Twitch, you're welcome to do that, obviously, if you want to. And check that out. And appreciate the wonderful panels made by, once again, my good friend Mullet. So, that's about all I have. That's about all I have to talk about. I know, it's amazing. Wow, this guy, he finally out of things to talk about. I am. So, I should say this too. If you did not watch the entire video, but you're listening to this part, I appreciate you watching any of the video. If you just watched, like, the mock draft part, or you skipped around, whatever. Thank you for watching as well. And sorry to throw the picture of the Browns fans with the bags on the heads at the end here, but I try to end these with something kind of funny, and I know this isn't funny to Browns fans. I'm sorry. I was a Browns fan, like, as a secondary team for a long time. I wanted to see them succeed. When Baker beat the Steelers in the playoffs, I was the happiest non-Browns fan in the world. And then they did the stuff they did, and here we are. So, debating should Shedeur Sanders be the starter. It is what it is, man. Thanks for watching, everybody. All the stuff I normally say and blab about. Appreciate you guys. Go ahead and follow if you want to see more of these long yaps, or if you want to see future mock draft videos, or other gaming stuff that I do. Roblox, for some reason. Random games, sometimes, occasionally. I very much do not have a set schedule, and I very much don't post as much as I would like to, but we'll see if I get going here over the next few months with some gaming and some videos. But, yeah. I feel like there's a big thing I'm forgetting to say, but I really can't think of anything else right now, so I swear there was something. I'm just dragging it out now. He's dragging it. He's gonna get a low taper fade and drag it. He's dragging the meme. No, that wasn't it. Low taper fade meme was not what I was gonna say. I swear there was something else though. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. Alright, I'm gonna stop. Thanks for watching. No, there was definitely something, guys. Absolutely, there was something I was gonna say here. If I don't think of it in the next minute, I'm gone. But I swear there was something. This is probably the most ridiculous thing any of you have ever heard on YouTube ever. But I'm gonna keep thinking about it for another minute, starting right now at 2:14. The recording's been going for 2:14. I don't know what time is it actually. No, it's not even 2 yet. I'm gonna have to upload the video to YouTube, and then hopefully it'll be done uploading by the time I go to bed, so I can like edit the info and set it to, you know, post during the day tomorrow. I swear there was something else, man. There had to have been. My birthday is this month. That's exciting. That wasn't it, but that's exciting. I have no idea. And this isn't like a shtick where I'm like the last video I was like, oh, you're still here? Oh, you guys should go. There's nothing else here. Like, I'm not doing that kind of a thing. I literally thought there was something else I had to say and I forgot. But that's time. That's 2:15. So thanks for watching. Follow if you like it. It was going to be something about some other videos or something. I just can't remember it. So if I think about it, I'll post it in the description or something. But I also have to edit the timestamps in. I can't forget to do that. So I'm going to stop talking and go away. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. And as always, Godspeed. See you in the next one.